Well, I'm very impressed that you have come this far in the course, and you may realize that although this is now the time for the midterm exam, you actually are 2/3 of the way through the course effectively, because you have read now all the assigned works by Aeschylus and Sophocles, and there's only one more author that you're going to have to get through, and that's Euripides. And a lot of people taking the course really like Euripides a lot. So I think you'll find that the rest of the course will really go a lot more smoothly than maybe it did for you at the beginning when you were struggling through all that Aeschylus, which I know is really hard. Sophocles hopefully made things somewhat easier for you. If you found those guys a little bit tough going, I think you'll really enjoy Euripides, and you absolutely will just love Bacchae. Dionysus is so kick-ass, you just have to get there. And then, of course, Medea. Oh, there's absolutely not a tragic heroine anywhere like Medea. All right, but first the midterm. Got to get through the midterm first, and then you'll be able to have lots of fun with Euripides afterwards. All right, so let's deal with the midterm exam. We don't want this to be a tragedy, right? All right, oath of academic honesty. You should have already taken care of that on the first session of the exam, of the course, in the video called exams. You were reminded to do that. But if you took the course late or entered it late, you might have perhaps not realized you needed to do this, or for any other reason, you might perhaps just not have gotten to that. So please make sure that you have completed the oath of academic honesty. Go back in that forum and double check if need be. Please pause the video, get the document out of oath, and please read it through. Please initial it, and then please upload it back into that same forum so that I know that you are aware of the academic standards required by University of Rhode Island that are also required by me for this course. So if you didn't already do this, please pause the video, go and find the forum near the beginning of the list of forums. The Oath of Academic Honesty, please get the document out, read it, initial it, and get it back into the that same forum. Okay, so please take care of that business before you proceed with the midterm video. Okay, and now we're ready to continue. So the midterm exam itself is going to show up some days before the actual due date of the midterm exam itself in the resources folder. Now, if you're taking this course during the school year, then it will be about a week before. If you're taking the course in a summer session, then it will probably be a few days before. Whichever it is, though, check the resources folder in order to find the midterm exam. It wasn't there before, but it will be there now. However, it's only going to be there, and also there's a resource, a study sheet too for the midterm exam that will also be there with the midterm exam itself in the resources folder. Both of those, however, will be gone after the due date. So you must get the exam out of resources before the due date, or even on the due date, so that you don't miss it and don't have to come and email me saying I forgot to get it, and then discover that you have to pass the exam in late. That's going to obviously cost you points on the midterm exam. So don't let that happen to you. Okay. So make sure that you get that document out of resources, and also the review sheet if you want to use that too, and then you will be all set. Okay. For grading purposes, the midterm exam, remember, is 40% of your grade. The closed book part is 40 points. The open book part is 60 points. The breakdown with IDs and passages is 28 points and 12 points, in case you really need to know more specifically than that. But, I mean, don't let grading distract you. If you just focus on doing well in this exam, and you should be okay. Okay, again, we don't want a tragedy here. So do that, and then you ought to be okay. All right, so make sure you get the midterm exam. Big thing. Get the exam out of resources when it's time to, before the due date, in order for you to be able to take it. Once you have the exam, I ask you please to sit down and take the entire exam as in a single sitting, if possible, single sitting, as opposed to doing part of it at one time and then part of it another time. Now, I know people's work schedules sometimes just make that really hard to do, so if you do need to do it at multiple times, there certainly won't be a penalty for that to occur. But it is meant to be a real exam, and therefore should be taken in a single sitting if you are able to do so. Okay, now that would satisfy the oath's requirements in the most ideal way possible. Okay, on the midterm exam itself, you will find the IDs you need for the closed book part, and the 4 questions that you will need to answer about the 2 passages that you will receive from me by email separately. And then there will be the 2 possible topics that you can write about for your open book essay, all of which we're now going to describe here in this video. Okay? When you are all finished with your midterm exam, please compile everything that you've written together into a single document. It should be a Word document if possible, Microsoft Office, but if you don't have Word, you may also come up with a PDF. That will be acceptable as well. The open book essay can be 12-point font or 14-point font. That's perfectly fine. And should be either 1.5 space or double space. And you can use, if you need to make any citations from passages, you can use whatever format you want to for the footnotes, endnotes, and bibliography. Chicago Manual of Style, for instance, is perfectly acceptable. Okay. Do not, however, use single space. That makes it very hard to read the essay and make it comments on it. So 1.5 space or 2 space for lines is what I'd like for that. Okay. And again, make sure the whole thing is all together as a single document, and then it all goes in your Dropbox. Okay, so not on the forums and absolutely not emailed to me. It needs to be put in your Dropbox. Should there be a technical problem with getting the exam in the Dropbox and you need to make some other arrangement to get it to me, then email me and we'll work something out. But unless there's a real problem, that exam should be in your Dropbox, single document, complete document, all together, and on time, on or before the due date. Give it to you in your syllabus, on the calendar, and on the forums. Okay? So get all that done, taken care of properly, and you'll get a good grade on the midterm exam. Again, that's exactly what we want here in a tragedy class. All right, let's now talk about the components of the midterm itself. The closed book part, as suggested by the title, means that all you should have in front of you is your computer for writing out your IDs and your passages, and the brain. Okay, no other aids of any type should be available when you're doing the closed book part. The IDs are arranged for you alphabetically in the closed book part. Just there's about 40 names or so. Most of them are characters from the plays. There might be some other concepts that are put in here and there. And you're going to select 10 of those to discuss. Each of your IDs should be provided in a separate paragraph. Don't bundle them all in one paragraph. Instead, provide separate paragraphs for each of the different ID topics you choose to pick. And supply me with information about 3 different things or more, and you can be brief with these IDs. You don't have to write long essays, but about 3 different facts that you can tell me about the IDs. Obviously, when I'm talking about 3 different things, they need to be really different. So if you, let's say you do Athena, it's not going to be good to say, goddess who lived at Athens, protectress of Athens. That's obviously silly, because clearly those 2 things are too close to each other. That could be one point, but then you have to also supply some other information, like the fact that she shows up in Eumenides to oversee the trial of Orestes, or whatever else you want to say. That's fine. Okay, but they should be 3 different things if possible. Okay, so that shouldn't really be that difficult. As long as you know who the characters are in the different plays, then you should be okay. All right. Now, once you're okay with the IDs, then switch to your passages. There are 2 of them. They may come from any of the Aeschylus or Sophocles plays that you have read up to this point. Now, one word of warning before I talk about passages themselves. Be aware that you have multiple versions of the story of Orestes and Electra. Okay? Be careful not to get them mixed up. You also have multiple versions of the story of Antigone. Be careful not to get those mixed up. Okay? So be really, really conscientious, understanding the nuances among the plays wherever the same story is being narrated, so that you don't mistakenly misidentify one of those. Okay, so be really careful about that. All right. Now, the questions about the passages. You can you're answering the title of the work, the author of the work, Aeschylus or Sophocles, a brief plot summary of the whole work, and then the context in which the passage appears. Okay, so what part of the plot is the passage taken from? Okay, and describe some of that in detail. And make sure that you explain to me if there's anything about the passage that the author is especially trying to use to emphasize some aspect of the plot, or something tragic about the characters, or anything of that nature. That's what you really want to get at. Okay, be very careful to do both C and D, both the plot, the overall plot, and the context of the passages. Don't omit one of those, because then you will lose points. Be really careful. And in all times with both of these, you need to be as accurate and complete as possible. Also, with both of these, describe as much as possible what makes your chosen characters or situations, and also the passage's context, what makes them tragic. So make sure you understand the concept of what's tragic in the ancient Greek sense and be able to describe to me. Now, a lot of times it's pretty clear that a character like, let's say, Clytemnestra is a pretty tragic character in the sense that she becomes a murderess when she had been a queen and so forth. So that shouldn't be too hard to figure out. But you still need to be fairly clear about what is the tragic element that's operating with the stories and the specific characters, and be able to describe that to me as specifically as possible in your IDs and your passages. So look for that as you do this. Okay? And again, remember that the closed book part should be completed in a single sitting with no other aid except for the computer and the noggin up here. Okay? You all set with that? All right, any questions, of course, always feel free to email me or text me or phone me if there's anything. All right, open book essay. The essay can be about, as we say, 5 or 6 pages, 12-point font, 14-point font is fine. And there are 2 possible topics about the essay. One is to describe to me in what sense has the author transformed a myth into a tragic story. So you want to locate the original myth that's being described in the tragedy, and then explain in what sense has the myth been transformed into a story that's specifically tragic. Okay, so you can use outside sources if you want to in order to research what those myths are. There is that book, the ancient work called by Apollodorus, Library of Greek Mythology, that you can use in order to research what the original story was and get some additional background of it, other versions of the story besides what the tragedy describes, and so forth. So you want to look for that, and then just say to me, here's the original myth, and then the tragedy does this with it and enhances this character. So if for instance you were talking about the myth of the death of Agamemnon, you might point out that Aegisthus is highlighted as an especially noxious character in Agamemnon as the cousin of the deceased king, whatever you wanted to say about that. Okay, but that's the kind of thing that you're looking for in that topic. The other topic is, in what sense is this play specifically Athenian rather than generally Greek? So that's where your World of Athens textbook comes up, and those Athens Day assignments that you already have done. So what you're looking for now is, in what sense does the play reflect specific Athenian values that you now have come to understand by reading part so far of the World of Athens textbook? So think about what is Athenian about the play, and then convey to me a sense of why this play works best for an Athenian audience within the theater in Athens. For both these topics, you have to be specific with evidence. You need to find citations from whichever play you are going to discuss. Provide those citations from the text themselves in the essay, and then provide some analytical discussion of the passages that you pick. So if you pick, for instance, a choral speech, then you want to provide a little bit of it and then just discuss it in some detail. The point here is to provide evidence for your argument. I need to know that you read the work and that you can use it intelligently in order to prove an argument. The essay itself should be structured with the argument stated at the beginning in your introductory paragraph, and then your central paragraphs will provide you with your evidence and fuller discussion, and then finally your concluding paragraph wraps everything up with a conclusion. You don't necessarily have to cite like every single passage for every single claim you ever want to make. However, most of the time when you're claiming something, like if you want to say, for instance, that Clytemnestra is meant to be an especially scary character as a ghost in Eumenides, let's just say, you need to cite things to demonstrate how that is. Don't just say it. I may agree with you, and you're probably right, but you have to show me that you know what you're talking about. So claims like that need to be cited, and especially those claims are important for proving your argument. Also, big thing, grammar, punctuation, spelling have to be accurate. Okay, be sure you use spell check if necessary to get those accurate. Be really good with editing and proofreading. Italicize all the titles of the works, And watch out for sentence structure, like when do you use commas, when do you use semicolons, like in front of the word however, in front of the word therefore, and so forth. Watch out for homonyms like there, for instance, T-H-E-R-E, T-H-E-I-R, T-H-E-Y, apostrophe R-E. Be careful of those. And also the tone of the essay. You should avoid using contractions like don't, doesn't, isn't, aren't, and anything else that's conversational should be avoided. The tone is expected to be professional and formal at all times when you write this essay. So keep it that way. So do all that correctly, and you'll be in excellent shape for this midterm exam. Again, when it's all finished, put it all together as a single document, Word or PDF, and then submit it into your Dropbox. Any questions, feel free to email me, and I'll help out as much as I'm able to. All right, so on the other side of this midterm exam, we get to Euripides, the really fun tragic author. So good luck with the midterm exam. Take it easy. You'll be fine with it. And get it finished properly, and then come on back and see me here again on the next video. Okay, we'll see you on the other side of the midterm exam.